gonna throw. One-on-one, Davis has it. Touchdown! Carolina wins! Carolina is the Coastal Division champion! Javonte Williams to the left of Howe. He'll send him out into the flat right side. Howe looking, standing tall, lets it go, man there! Touchdown! Touchdown, Carolina! The pistol, Jackson behind him. Hands off to Jackson, he tried a jump pass, and it's intercepted! Surratt intercepts it! Holy cow, Carolina's gonna win! And off to Javonte Williams again, pops it to the left. Javonte leaps over a man, crosses the 50, trucks over a defender, spins by another. Goodness gracious, he's down to about the 15, and he did absolutely everything in one carry.
Here's the shotgun snap to Aguilar. Drops back, pressure coming, Aguilar floats it up, incomplete! No flags! Head on back up the mountain! Carolina wins it in double overtime! Loftus, out of the shotgun, throws to the end zone, incomplete! Incomplete! The bell belongs to us! Carolina wins it 47-45 in double overtime!
Bernard fields it at the 26. Heading to the far side. Gio at the 35. Gio, he's at the 50. No, he's not. Yes, he is. Gio is going to take it for a touchdown. Are you kidding me?
What's going on, guys? Welcome in for the fourth straight night. We are live here on at least the Heel Tough Blog Facebook page in some form or fashion with a version of the Heel Tough Blog podcast. Also coming at you on Twitter, on Josh's Twitter right there. You can see the handle right there below him. And how could we not? Because, boy, the news is rolling in on this coaching front. This has become a coaching search that I don't think anybody really thought would get to some of the crazy lengths that it has gotten to. But we have one finalist officially being named. We have maybe the greatest coach in the history of football, organized football, that is seriously considering coming to Carolina. And so we got to get on here and react to all this. Of course, Josh wasn't able to be with me last night. He was recovering from some sort of illness that he was dealing with that really kicked his butt yesterday. So he's here tonight. He wants to get his opinions out on Bill Belichick and the possibility that he could be taking the job and that there could be a coach in waiting also named around him. So much stuff to get into with this. Meanwhile, keeping an eye on another guy right now that Carolina could be zeroing in on as well, and John Sumrall. Jeff Monken, a name that's been brought up as well. So we'll talk about all of the latest stuff that's going on around this job. And, you know, I think the place you got to start is with Belichick, because now this has gone from a rumor late last week that there were a couple of board of trustees that thought it would be a good idea to bring him in and let him interview for the job. Seems like at that point, Bubba Cunningham said, all right, whatever. We're just trying to satisfy you guys. I don't know if the meeting then that was reported yesterday by Inside Carolina went so well that they decided we actually kind of like this guy. Now there's a report today from Jonathan Jones that the two sides met again yesterday in Manhattan. This makes some sense because for Bill Belichick, I guess that's close to the area where he's staying. I don't know exactly where he is staying at this time in his life. And Carolina also is believed to be up there because of its course. It's right outside of West Point. If they want to sit down and interview John Sumrall, the head coach for Tulane, or Jeff Monken, the head coach for Army, it's really a pretty short drive down from West Point for them to be able to meet over the weekend. So I think there's, multiple reasons why that second interview takes place. And then there are some other reports, but just initially you hear this. The second interview with him, this time in person, I think that kind of shows you that this really isn't just them trying to prop up the job. This isn't just Bill Belichick trying to say that he's available out there. There may actually be some serious interest here.
Yeah. And it's a lot to process, because on one hand, is North Carolina football above hiring maybe the greatest coach in the history of the sport? No. On the other hand, it makes absolutely zero sense to hire Bill Belichick. Considering, one of the reasons why you forced Mac Brown out was because of his age. Bill Belichick is, if you check your notes, is 10 months younger than Mac Brown. So you would be replacing an old coach with an even older coach, or with a coach who was of the same age as of him, who has no ties to the university, has no ties to college football in terms of coaching at a high level. But this is a guy that is eager to get back in the coaching world. And so yesterday when this news broke, I thought it was basically a double PR move. Carolina using his name to make their job seem more attractive. Hey, Bill Belichick wants to coach at North Carolina. Then XYZ should be willing to coach North Carolina. On the flip side, we know Bill Belichick is eager to get back into coaching. Well, let me show every NFL organization that I have options at my disposal. And if you want me, you're going to have to come get me. We know that he's chasing that elusive Super Bowl post Tom Brady. He's also chasing the NFL career wins record as well, which is why coaching in college would make no sense. But here we are, where there's been a second interview that's taken place, and it's at least on the table that he would be interested in coaching if certain demands were met. And so I think what it clearly shows which was my biggest fear all along, which was that there was no clear path, plan, direction post Mac Brown. There just wasn't. And I think the fact that Bill Belichick has emerged as a serious candidate is evidence of the fact that that firing, for a lot of intents and purposes, was more of a sudden move than it was something that was planned, and Carolina had been working behind the scenes to have their next coach in place. Because if that were the case, I find it hard to believe that Bill Belichick would be as serious a candidate as he is as we sit here on a Friday night.
Which is malpractice, especially with how old Mac Brown was. The fact that we as fans had been looking at this for the last few years and saying it seems obvious that at some point he's going to have to either step away or be fired. There's no excuse after the way that last year ended. And a lot of people looking at it said this is the year that Mac Brown should step away, that you did not have a plan in place. Now with Bill Belichick, I mean, dude, I don't understand how that becomes a serious candidate. That tells me that could tell you one of two things. It could tell you that Carolina really just for some reason believes that this is going to work, which it won't, or that this is a job that was not coveted, that all of those thoughts about this being that coveted of a job were a lie. I don't know if that's true. And some would say, well, the fact that Bill Belichick wants it shows you it is coveted. If it was that coveted, you shouldn't even be considering this, especially when you then get the reports from Ali Conley, a guy who writes a Substack that covers the NFL, the read optional, and he says that not only is this very serious that both sides, are talking about Bill Belichick being the head coach, there is also conversation that Carolina is very in on for Stephen Belichick to be named the coach in waiting. I don't understand what Carolina is thinking here. Not only are you going to have Bill Belichick, a 72-year-old man who, when the season starts, will be 73 years old, coaching your team, you will then have the future of your program planned out to then transition to Stephen Belichick, who we have absolutely no idea whether or not he is really that great of a coach. And I know a lot of people are saying, well, look at what he did this year at Washington. He did that with a lot of leftover talent from the previous year. And it was in a conference where who are the great offenses that they really faced this year? That's a conference that had Oregon in it. That's a conference that had Indiana. Those are the great offenses. You go back and look at some of the games that we saw from that Washington defense. That defense let up 40 points to Iowa. Do we really think that he is some genius that is waiting to be plucked? Come on, man. Just stop. Just stop. And I love that a lot of the people that are in on Bill Belichick's hire are basically using the fact that he would be able to recruit. Hey, guys, you know who else was able to recruit right away when he took the job at Carolina? Mac Brown, the second time around, had that work out. You think that a guy in Mac Brown that's 73 years old can't connect with kids of this generation, especially on game day? That is what I heard from a lot of people. But you believe that Bill Belichick is going to be able to connect with those guys? He wasn't able to connect with NFL players towards the end of his career in New England. Like after Tom Brady, there really wasn't a whole lot of success there. And I think a lot of people around the NFL were discussing how he had lost his fastball. This was a guy that was a legendary head coach that was getting to the point where he needed to step away. I don't understand it at all. I really don't get what Carolina is thinking here, because there are a lot of people that are saying, well, Carolina's got nothing to lose. This job is in a horrible place. No, it's not. Well, what are you people talking about? I don't believe that the job wasn't as coveted as we originally heard it was, because there are names that have been floated out there that make me believe that it is a pretty coveted job. And there are, I would say, at least 10 names that I've seen that have been linked to the job that I think are all better than Bill Belichick. The only hire that would be worse, in my opinion, would be Freddie Kitchens. That would make absolutely no sense. But Bill Belichick is right behind him on that. You're telling me he's going to have the energy to go out there and recruit? You're telling me that he's going to have energy to handle the NIL stuff in the transfer portal? Oh, that's right. Ollie Conley says he's going to have a guy that handles all that. So he's not going to talk to guys until they get on campus? Are we being for real? That makes absolutely no sense. That makes zero sense. And maybe, oh, well, he has a phone. He talks to them over the phone. It doesn't matter. If he's not going and seeing these guys in person, you really think that's the direction that Carolina needs to go? It's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing to me that people think so little of this job, that they think that you have to pull a stunt like this in order to make this job something that people want around college football. I don't know if you're with me on that. Maybe it wasn't the most coveted job that's currently out there, but my God, there is no way that this job is that low on the totem pole that you have to go this outside the box and make this hire.
Well, I mean, present moment, it's the best job available because it's still the only power conference job that's come open this coaching cycle. So,
well, West Virginia, Purdue, Central.
That's right. Yeah, those jobs have come open. It's definitely a better job than Purdue. I don't know clearly if it's a better job than West Virginia. I think what happened.
It's a better job than Central Florida too. Yes, I think that's clear.
Yes, I think what has happened has been what has always happened. Is this job becomes available? People look at what the job offers, what it represents, which is a recognizable brand. No, not on the football field, but everyone knows what that interlocking light blue NC is. The potential that it has. You do look at the facilities; they are as up to date as they have ever been. There is a fertile recruiting background in the state to where you could build a consistent winner on a year in, year out basis. But then it just comes down to the stuff off the field, which is how much is the administration willing to go to win. And I do think that you look at how Mac Brown's staff grew during his second time here and the amount of coaches and strength and nutrition people and all the support staff was employed shows that there's a larger commitment, because I think his staff totaled 71. That's a pretty significant investment in terms of coaches and support staff. I think NIL is probably your biggest concern. But Bubba Cunningham has said it when the job came available. They think that they'll be better suited to compete starting next year when you have revenue sharing that'll help them get the top recruits in the country to come potentially play for them. So I still think of all the current jobs open, I still think it has the potential to be the best job, but what is Carolina's commitment to winning on the football field? I think the longer that the job has been open, the more that's been brought into question, and it's why they are where they are in their head coaching search.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, Bill Belichick being a serious candidate for the job would prove to me that it's not you're not a serious football program. If you were, you wouldn't even be considering that guy. Like, I just, to me, that, again, it's a gimmick. It's a gimmick. Maybe it works. Maybe. But I'm going to tell you, the chances of it actually succeeding are very, very slim. I mean, almost minute. I just don't see it happening. And I've heard people that have said, and Myron Goodman says the state of UNC's NIL, you believe that the job is coveted. That's the one thing that they're concerned about. But you brought up revenue sharing. Also, if you make an inspiring enough hire, people will donate to the NIL collective. Are people going to be dying to donate to Bill Belichick's NIL collective? Especially because here's the thing that doesn't make sense to me. You guys actually believe this dude is staying here more than 1 year. He ain't. It's either going to be he takes the job at Carolina so that his son has a future. He literally, that was admitted to the source that Ali Conley had earlier today. He said that's pretty much the only reason he is even interested in the job, is to set up his son for the future, which is a pathetic reason for Carolina to be interested in that. That makes absolutely no sense to me, why they would even consider that. I mean, you really think that he's not going to bolt for the NFL if he gets a chance? He may do it before this season. If there is a good enough NFL job, if the Dallas Cowboys come open and they want him that badly, there's a chance he leaves. And I know for sure, because he has said it multiple times, if the New York Giants job comes open, he will not turn that job down. That is where he wants to go back to. He was there when he was an assistant, and he wants that job badly. He has said that for years. So you could literally hire this guy, and then he turns around and takes an NFL job before he even coaches a game for you. How stupid is that? Like, listen to that scenario, and it's a realistic one, folks. So if you're on the Belichick train, I just want you guys to think about that and prepare yourselves to possibly be looking for a coach in the middle of January or maybe early February, depending on when some of these moves are made. Are you ready for that possibility? Because I'm not. I want someone that's going to be here for the long haul. It needs to be, Donnie Melton says it right here, UNC needs a younger coach. Part of the reason you fire Mac Brown was because of his age. So you need to find that young guy, find that young defensive mind that's going to be able to win at a consistent level at this school. And I think you might have been along the lines with some of the guys that were rumored as potential favorites. But Bill Belichick is not meeting any of those criteria. And I don't know how you feel. Do you feel like guys or donors are really going to be thinking to themselves, man, you know what? If we get Bill Belichick, that's when we'll start donating to the NIL collective.
Yeah, I mean, probably not. But also I can't say otherwise. I mean, I do think that if you go this route, I think the best case scenario, what you do is you almost set it up like an NFL program where you have so many people that do so many different things for him. You know, basically, we've seen the GM role become something in college sports. Andrew Luck was just hired for that to be his role at Stanford, where he's dealing with roster and NIL stuff and all that. You have your coordinators, you have all your position coaches, and all Bill Belichick has to do is coach. I still think the man can coach. I don't think he lost the ability to coach post Tom Brady. He took the Patriots to the playoffs with Mac Jones. But, you're still doing something that is so unorthodox that there's not a model to copy to suggest success, and there's no guarantee that it would work out. So, and you can give a coach all the money and the resources in the world. Mac Brown had that. Donations were as high as they've ever been under Mac Brown. Money was as high as ever been under Mac Brown. And people were still upset with the lack of results. So I don't think just because you're hiring Bill Belichick, there's going to be an even more cash flow coming into the program.
Yeah, and you landed 5-star recruits when Mac Brown was here before NIL really took off the way that it is. Even if you have the money and you're landing these recruits, is it guaranteed to be a success? And what happens when he chooses to leave? Are they going to stick by because Steven Belichick is now the head coach? The other thing that you have to ask yourself is that people have looked at the other names that have been suggested. And when I suggested certain names, they told me, we don't like the gist of what they bring to the table. You know, Jimbo Fisher was one of those guys. Well, we don't really look at him as the kindest guy. Do you look at Bill Belichick as the kindest person? Do you think that he's really a guy that's going to, mesh well with young fans and stuff like that? He's got an abrasive personality. He's going to look at this as just a coaching job. He's not going to look at this as a place that he loves. So that's the connection that you see with a lot of younger coaches when it comes to these college jobs, is they dig in, they buy into the culture. Do you really think that Bill Belichick is going to be a guy that is going to be shaking hands on the field, signing stuff for kids? That was never what he did in New England. So it's an odd move to me, and I think it's too gimmicky for me to actually buy in. Like, if this was younger Belichick, maybe there's actually a reason to believe. But the fact that his dad used to coach here at the school back in the 50s, and he has a friend that is an assistant coach on the lacrosse team. I just that doesn't make any sense as to why we should hire him and bring him in here. Now you move on to some of the other reporting that has come out. Andrew Carter of the News and Observer, he reported earlier that Carolina does have one finalist at least locked up, and that there will be a meeting with that finalist this weekend. Now, that is John Sumrall. He says he remains a leading candidate at this point. And he also says in that tweet, Carter did, he says that he is told Belichick camp is lobbying hard for UNC opening, and that there's some chaos surrounding candidates and who is best amongst decision makers. So basically, this has become a standoff between the guys that are going to make this decision. It seems to me that there is one group that really likes Bill Belichick. There is another group that really likes John Sumrall. And Carter says that the resolution is expected as soon as Sunday. That is just, I mean, to me, I don't even look at Sumrall as my top name. But if that's what it comes down to, then that better be the pick. That's where I'm at. And I don't understand how it's really that debatable. If these decision makers are that torn over it, I think it shows you that, honestly, you've got the wrong people that are making the decisions for you.
Yeah, when we talked about Summerall the other night, when we were going over our initial list of candidates, I just cited really just there is success there, but it's a short track record of success. With that being said, I do feel like it's the more logistical hire. No, he doesn't have the 6 Super Bowls that Bill Belichick would have, but he's in the college game. He understands the way the college game works. He knows where it's trending to. And he is coaching tonight in a championship game. So he knows what it's like to build a program up and elevate it to a championship status, which is what we're asking our next head coach to do. We're asking him to elevate it above where Mac Brown took it to. And this would be a guy that would have experience doing that. So hopefully they're not basing it all off tonight. Like if he loses tonight, that they're going to go in a different direction. And I know they're down. I think they're down 14-0 right now. But I'm with you as someone that was not a name that inspired a lot of faith in me. That would be my top pick over Bill Belichick at this moment. And hopefully the people making this decision can come to their senses and realize it's better to establish a young, energetic coach who understands the college game as opposed to giving, a legendary coach the job really to just manipulate his son's future in coaching.
Yep. I think that's the best way to put it. And I think it is the purest form of nepotism that you would be agreeing to. And I don't understand why people are so on board with that. Look, my thing is, if Stephen Belichick is really that great, well, then let him continue to coach at Washington. And if the hire that you make fails, you can always go to Stephen Belichick and make him your head coach then. Why do you have to hire Bill to make sure that you, if you really like Stephen Belichick that much, you're hiring him to make sure that he's your guy of the future? So, yeah, I cannot believe we are actually sitting here talking about this. But, I mean, this group of candidates is wild. One of the other guys that was mentioned in Jonathan Jones' report today that was being considered by Carolina and that they had an interview with was Steve Wilks. Steve Wilks is a guy that when he was asked about the Charlotte job, which he was an advisor for that staff this year, he said he had no interest in coaching at the college level. But then he ends up interviewing for the Carolina job. Why? It doesn't make sense why those guys are being interviewed. So we're talking about guys that they at least reached out to or interviewed: Bill Belichick, Arthur Smith, and Steve Wilks. It doesn't make any sense. Like, guys, it's really not that difficult. I put together a list in one night of guys that make a lot more sense than any of those 3 guys, because those guys don't have really any coaching experience in college. Steve Wilkes, he does have a little coaching experience. He was one of the worst defensive coordinators maybe in the history of the game when he was at Missouri. So this list of guys is just insane to me. And I mean, the fact that it could come down to Summerall or Belichick and we could have a decision by Sunday, I got to tell you, man, as a Tar Heel football fan, I'm terrified because I think that this could be a complete disaster for Carolina if they're not careful. I just hope that the guys that are making the decisions make them, and I'm worried that it is the board of trustees that is making this decision, not the athletic director, which doesn't make any sense to me because the athletic director was brought there for a reason. You brought this up as well. What has Bubba Cunningham shown you so far that leads you to not believe in his ability to hire? I mean, what are you going to bring up? Oh, well, Hubert Davis off to a tough start this year. Really? Because dude went to a Final Four and had a 1 seed last year. So I think he's worked out pretty well so far. There's still a lot of time left in the current season that we're going through. Every other hire, he's pretty much seemed to love, or that he's loved have made sense. They've worked out. So I don't know, man. There's so many different things that are swirling around. Jonathan Jones said they hope to have the decision made by next week. I'm hoping that if it really is down to those two, they sort of delay this and honestly, they find a way to bring in some of these other candidates. Give me a legit group of finalists. But I don't know if that's going to end up happening. Whatever ends up happening, we will have you covered on the website, HeelToughBlog.com. At this point, I mean, look, if it's down to these two, then we will be ready on Sunday for whatever decision is ultimately made. I think that, Carolina, regardless of what happens, it's going to be an exciting future. There will be headlines no matter what happens, and we will have you covered on that front. Any transfer portal news, any of the other stuff going on around the football program, we will be there for you guys on the website. Same thing with the basketball program. They are getting ready to face off against Georgia Tech tomorrow, so make sure that you guys are checking out the website for the preview of that game. And then shortly after it's over, the recap, we will be going live tomorrow night. That'll be right after another edition, believe it or not, of the Heel Tough Blog podcast. That one will be where we go more in depth on the 7 guys that signed for Carolina on National Signing Day in the 2025 class. We'll follow that up then with a look at the game against Georgia Tech that Carolina played earlier in the day. Hopefully, we will be talking about a big win for Carolina that sort of gets them back on track. So that wraps it up for this edition of the podcast. Want to thank Josh for hosting with me. Want to thank you guys for watching and listening. And as always, go Tar Heels.